everyone, and Happy New Year, and welcome to our podcast, Climate and Cuisine. We are excited to have with us as a guest Addison Chantz. But let me first tell you, Climate Diet, my organization, I'm the executive director. We are a nonprofit, and we promote awareness of what you eat and its impact on the climate. So really important, particularly at this time of year, where there's many treats facing all of us. But let me tell you a little bit about Addison. Um, she joins us today. She's the Associate Executive Director of the Farm Animal Rights Movement, and Farm is one of Climate Diet's oldest, longest term, and most respected partners. We've been working with them on many Veg Fests over 5 years. Farm Executive Director Eric Lindstrom has been a guest on our podcast, so we welcome Addison. And so let me tell you a little bit more about Addison. She's been a vegan for 10 years, and her personal journey is plant-based eating. It's closely tied to navigating family struggles with weight and long-term health. And prior to Farm, Addison was senior paralegal at the Foundation to Support Animal Protection, bringing a strong legal and advocacy background to work advancing compassionate plant-based eating nationwide, plant-based living nationwide. Allison is also a representative of the LGBT community, and we are happy to have her and representing them and to support all that entails. So Allison, my first question is, what are your pronouns?
Well, thank you, Jane, so much for having me and so much for asking. As a gender fluid person, I use they, them. I also use she, her, and sometimes even he, him. So thank you.
Excellent, great. Well, so we are talking, here we are between Christmas, Hanukkah, and New Year's. Let's just get right into everyone is overeating or maybe eating the wrong things. I know in my own case, it's more like eating too much of the sweet stuff that we have. Do you have any advice? Because you did represent that was part of your struggle. So could you just talk to our viewers a little bit about how to navigate that, or anything about your own struggle and how you turned it into becoming a vegan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, actually, my 10-year vegan anniversary is in 2 days. So I'm very excited. I love talking about it. I actually went vegan when I was only 22, and that was after a childhood of seeing both of my parents very much struggle with their weight, and my grandparents as well. And I went vegan for the animals, and something that really helped me stick with it was also knowing that it was for my own health. It's like each of the reasons, the three main reasons I have for going vegan, which are, of course, the climate, animals, and health, they make each other so much stronger. And over the past 10 years, what I found, it was so funny, 10 years ago when I went vegan, there wasn't a lot available.
Yeah,
I couldn't find ice cream that wasn't coconut based. I couldn't find really melty, yummy cheeses. I couldn't find a lot of the meat
yeah,
substitutes that we use
absolutely.
nowadays. And so in a lot of ways, 10 years ago, it was actually a lot easier to eat better than it is now. So in recent years, what I've had to learn to do is really make eating healthy a very accessible. So I have three stepkids, and something that I say to them is there are foods that are good for our bodies and foods that are good for our souls, and the best foods are good for both. So one example is my 9-year-old stepdaughter. She loves strawberries. That is a food that is good for her body and good for her soul. And so I try to find those foods, the foods that you feel good about eating. For me, those are foods like walnuts. I love walnuts. Roast them up a little bit. Oh, so good. I also keep the squeezy like applesauce packs on hand in my house. Like if you need a quick snack, one of those is amazing to go to. So really,
I love applesauce too, and I keep those
yeah.
around too. So yeah, right
Yeah.
on.
We always have bananas in the house no matter what. Like a banana and peanut butter is a go-to thing. So it's really just m making those as accessible as maybe their really sugary counterparts are. You know, like it's easy to grab a candy bar, so make it as easy to grab a banana.
Well, let me just ask you, and this is all great advice because there is so much delicious food that is healthy as well, as you point out. Bananas with peanut butter. I love whole wheat bread with peanut butter. But for people just starting out, do you think what is the, well, let's talk about your origin story. How did you actually, I know it's 10 years for you, but what was the impetus? Did you have friends that were vegans that you saw and you liked their food, or how did it happen for you?
So I was working at a different law firm at the time. I was working in immigration, helping people get their visas. And one of the attorneys that I was working with, I was vegetarian because someone had made the argument like, if you don't need to eat animals, why are you? And I was like, oh, I guess you're right. Like, fine. So I went vegetarian. And so then the attorney that I was working with, she asked, she said, why aren't you vegan? And I said, well, because I'm fine with eating something as long as no one had to die for it. And she went, ooh, so you must not know about the dairy and egg industries, huh? And I did not. And I went home and I did the research and I saw babies dying. And I was like, okay, so in order for me to have moral consistency, I need to change. But I also knew um, the failure rate on veg diets. It's around 84% of people who try
Oh,
vegetarian and vegan diets do not stick with it. And
wow.
so I actually gave myself 3 months. I was like, okay. And I came up with a plan. And so at first it was just from then on, breakfast was always vegan. And then it was breakfast and lunch. And slowly over the 3 months, I had it until only like one meal a week wasn't vegan. And then by the time New Year rolled around and I went vegan, it was an easy transition. Um, and
What an excellent idea to have a plan like that. You should sell that.
it really worked for me. I have so many friends now that, you know, they learned about what animals go through and they changed overnight, and I have so much admiration for them. And I also know that it wouldn't have worked for me that way. And I'm glad that I did it in a way that would work for me. Um, it also gave me a lot of time. During that time, I was reading books. I was reading books on climate. I was reading books on health because I wanted to have all of the information to back me up because I knew this is something that I wanted to do forever. This is not something that's going to go away. And so I dug into all of that. I read the China study, which was
Oh,
a life-changing
that
for
that
me.
was how we became
Yeah.
vegetarian and then vegan. Yeah, was the
Yep.
China study. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so interesting in that Dr. Campbell talks so much about obviously like generational health and again with my family and seeing that I was like, oh, I thought so much of the diabetes and the heart disease. I thought so much of it was inevitable. And that was like the first time where I really felt like I could have control over my own health and my own future in that way. So it all kind of came together for me in those 3 months. And then I made the switch fully. I am 100% vegan for the animals. I am 100% vegan for my health. I am 100% vegan for the diet, for the climate. If you took away any of the two, one of them would be enough for me to stay vegan. And I love that. Like it's such a joyous part of my life. And I wish more vegans talked about it, like the joy that it is.
Well, let me jump in here and just talk because your generation really is way ahead of my generation in becoming vegans and vegetarians. There was a piece of research, and I can't remember if it was Rutgers put it out. Rockefeller Foundation, I know, did a report, which was actually one of the reasons I started my organization because they tied it to climate. But this piece of research was more like a survey of what are you eating, and it showed that about 30%, and I hope I have this right, but about 30% of people that were the ages of 20 to 30, sort of that range. It might have been up to 35, but about 30% said they were vegetarian or leaning toward it, or, you know, indicating that that was their
Veg
plan.
curious. Mhm.
So that's huge,
Yes.
because I think overall the data that I've seen, and it's really hard to know if the data is correct, but is it vegetarians and vegans together represent maybe 8% of the population in the United States. So 30% is such a hopeful sign. So I don't know if you can comment on that, being a part of that generation.
It's definitely different. I mean, I can comment on it being part of that generation, then also with my stepchildren, seeing them go through school. And um this past year, my 9-year-old and my 12-year-old came home and they said, "Oh my gosh, we have vegan chicken nuggets at school. That's one of our options now." In Southern Maryland,
This
which
is,
is not like a liberal place, it's not anything like that.
yeah,
It's pretty southern down there. And they have vegan chicken nuggets, and they always have a vegetarian option at school, and that's known and that's normal for kids. And I think that speaks so much to it, that it's just normal for them to have vegan chicken nuggets as their normal school lunch. I love that. And that's just in the public schools. And then,
you know, I think the National School Lunch Program has finally changed, but I had a meeting with Montgomery. I'm in Montgomery County, Maryland, the head of food for the public school system, and he said we have vegan options every day of the week. And I was so thrilled to hear that, because that was not the case maybe even a year ago.
no, and they are in the process of just now passing um, a new legislature that allows it expands, because like the National School Lunch Program has a lot of provisions for dairy, and it has since World War II. Um,
Yeah,
And now they're finally expanding into plant-based milk, which is amazing because there are millions of students that are lactose intolerant. And so they're finally expanding to
absolutely.
this.
And by nationality, a lot of Asians are lactose intolerant.
Hmm.
I'm my background, my heritage is Eastern European, and there's also a lot of lactose intolerant, and you know,
Hmm.
I'm
I
not,
mean, most of the
but
world
my I've had
is
brothers,
lactose
a
intolerant.
brother who definitely is, and I think it's anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it's very exciting to hear more and more people of your generation being smart about the climate. Do you think it's tied somewhat to facing a future where the storms are getting fiercer and there's more hurricanes, and they're, uh, again, stronger than ever before? And some of the rains in California and flooding seem not historical, but new. Um, your generation sees the writing on the wall that something has to be done. And one of the things we can do is not destroy the rainforest in Brazil. And Brazil is, from the data that I've seen, is the biggest meat producer in the world. They're exporting a huge amount of that to the United States. But getting back to the impetus for veganism or plant-based eating, do you think it has to do with the climate and that anxiety your
Oh,
generation must feel?
absolutely. I think it's related. I think people want to feel like they can do something, and this is something that you as an
Right.
individual can do. You're voting with your dollars, but more than that, you're voting with your conscience. You're saying, enough, I'm not going to go with the status quo, because the status quo is literally killing everyone. And my 19-year-old stepson, he said to me a couple of years ago now, but so he wasn't raised vegan, but a couple of years ago he said, yeah, I'm probably gonna go vegan eventually. I think we all are." And that just it hit so deep, because like that shows he was probably 16 or 17 when he said that. And it just shows the generational thinking of like, yeah, even though he wasn't raised vegan, he kind of already thinks that the whole world is headed that way because we have to be.
That's hopeful. That is very hopeful. I have three daughters, and two out of the three are vegan, so I'm very proud of them. And my one daughter in Florida has a vegan business, and she produces these chocolate bites. They're very healthy. very yummy. I appreciate that she's actually helping vegans with her product because let's all face it, we want we want
Yeah,
a little chocolate, and chocolate is good for you anyway,
I'm gonna need
according
a
to
link to that business after this. I love chocolate.
definitely will. She's on my board of directors and she does podcasts and she has many, many really vegan connections. So she's a wonderful partner in what I'm doing. But yeah, it's great to hear that your stepchildren are leaning that way and see that as the future. That's so hopeful.
Hmm.
Do you want to, getting back to what everyone's eating, do you want to give any advice to people to, you know, what's a good way to think about trying to curb, or do we just go ahead and indulge and go on a diet after, or just dealing with the holidays when everyone is, if you're visiting family or friends or you're going to parties, there's all kind of treats there.
Yeah. So personally, I never advocate for like a diet. I think however you want to live, it should feel good to you. So it should be more of a lifestyle. And that is for me personally, what I try to listen to. I definitely do indulge more in the holidays. However, I also listen to my body. So I try to I definitely have had more candy and more cookies, but I don't eat to the point where I feel sick or feel like I am so full that I need to lay down or something like that. I also really try to lay a good base of non-sweets first. I have the biggest sweet tooth, so this is definitely something I am very hyper aware of over the holidays. So, I try to make sure I eat my savories before my sweets. And just making sure, honestly, the biggest thing for me is throwing in a salad every once in a while throughout the holidays. Like, I am not the person that like orders a salad or or anything like that. So, but having that fiber can make a whole difference for how I feel. It can
Yes,
keeps everything
absolutely.
right. So like just making sure that I have the greens again, that accessibility, like making sure that you have it in the house and just all right, well, like I'm definitely gonna eat some of those cookies that my friends brought over, but I'm gonna eat this bowl of salad first something that helps me a lot.
I find that to be true too. And I'm not somebody that orders the salad for my whole meal, frankly.
Hmm.
Um, but salads, I buy at my closest grocery store, Safeway, and they sell, the salads already made in a bag. They're actually very reasonably priced, and they have carrots and cabbage cut up in, so it's just a really healthy mixture. They are so delicious, and I feel differently because I don't have to do all the work. They've done it for me, and it's so easy to have just a healthy salad. And I don't always eat it before the meal. Sometimes I make it the last part of the meal.
Yeah.
But but I'm sort of in agreement with you that, it does fill you up. And it can be a lunch, very seldom for me, but it can be a lunch if you throw a little protein into it. Let's talk a little bit about farm animal rights movement and some of the programs you have. I mentioned before we went uh, started recording that I had worked with Farm on its meet out as a volunteer, and it was such a productive one near the tidal basin. And I think you told me you typically do them in the spring, and I don't know if you tied it to a holiday,
Yep.
uh,
So
but
meat,
can we?
yeah, absolutely. Meat out is always like the first day of spring. So March 20th every year. And since I'm here in DC, we do often do a meat out event down at the Tidal Basin, which overlaps with the Cherry Blossom Festival. So it's usually like a very well-attended event. It's always a lot of
Yeah,
fun. And I have a soft spot for Meat Out as a vegan holiday, because so many of the vegan programs, like Veganuary, love it. It's such an amazing program. And like me, what I was talking about before, I had to do a slow slide into veganism for it to work for me. And I think Meat Out is a great way to start because it's asking you to eat vegan for literally one day. It's just showing people how easy it is. You wake up and you have some toast, and then for lunch you have a PBJ. Like it's things you're already eating. It doesn't have to be this whole like big, it is going vegan is a life-changing thing, but in like the small steps, it's a bunch of small steps. It's not this huge thing that happens all at once. Um, so Meet Out is coming up in March. Right now, I would really encourage people to go to our Compassionate Holidays site. We have so many resources. We have recipes, guides, gift guides, all sorts of stuff for all of the holidays that have just passed and are coming up, Valentine's Day, etc. So we have that. And then, of course, in the summer, I do a lot of, we have our livevegan.org website, which really encourages vegans to show up at things they're already passionate about. For me, as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, that's showing up at Pride events. I love talking about how consent and autonomy and freedom are like really core to my beliefs, and that is why I'm vegan, and that is also like a very big part of my queer identity. So I go and I talk about that. We go march in the pride parades and we sell merchandise at the festivals, and it's such a fun, wonderful place to be. And I love encouraging vegans to show up in the areas they're passionate about. I think so often it's easy for us to want to like isolate from the world because it's harsh out there. It is. And we forget that like showing up to the things that we already love is activism. Just showing up as you are as a vegan in and of itself is activism. So farm programming, really, I would say like anything that anyone of our volunteers is passionate about, we want to get behind them.
Awesome. And I agree about you sometimes. I agree with you. I think sometimes we do feel like just being isolated and sticking with the people that love and appreciate what it is to be a vegan. Um, because it is a harsh world out there, and a lot of people truthfully do think we are either elitist or don't understand us and don't see themselves going there and think it's unusual to not eat meat when in fact to me it's the opposite. Why would you eat meat? It's so cruel. It's a cruel business, and the way you brought up the dairy and how badly uh, that mothers are treated and babies taken away from them. It's a cruel business. But so I love that you're talking about other events. Do you have any programs coming up that people can participate in or you want people to know about? What's on your agenda? I don't, I'm familiar with Farm and we participated for, I guess, 5 years in the veg fests around the city. And I guess you're not taking the lead on that anymore, but they were, I thought, very highly successful events, and I really loved being a part of them.
Thank you. Yeah, DC, the DMV in particular, is a weird event landscape at the moment. So we are taking a step back from leading events, but we are still participating in them. So right now, our big kind of relaunch in 2026 is our Compassionate Activist Network. So we have this wonderful group of volunteers that we are looking to expand, and what we're really hoping to get going is again working with people on what they're passionate about. So getting out into the community, we have so many resources when it comes to leaflets and other things to hand out. We have coloring books, all of these things that are wonderful and people love. And so we're just working with our activists right now to find out where they want to be to basically like get out there, put themselves out there. And so for example, in December, we did a bunch of vegan eggnog giveaways and we had handouts that went with that. And so moving into the spring, we're going to be looking for new giveaways. We're looking for new partners. We've been partnering with like local organic markets, things like that. So we're going to be doing giveaways. We have Meet Out coming up in March. And then we have Vegan Earth Day coming up in April, which we love to participate. And So, if there are any activists listening to this that have a local Earth Day march that they would like banners or anything else for, please reach out. We love doing that. I love showing up to the Earth Day marches and representing veganism because I have people always come up and thank me for being there because often farm is the only one showing up and saying like, yes, not eating animals is a great way to help the environment. So Earth Day coming up is a huge one. And yeah, really, so we're really looking to revitalize the Compassionate Activist Network so that we can get all of our amazing volunteers out there doing what they're already passionate about and just giving them the resources they need to do it.
Well, Climate Diet would definitely want to partner with you and Vegan Earth Day so we can talk about that offline. And
Awesome.
I wanted to mention one place that we march, Climate Diet marches, is we're on near the river. And so Palisades in DC has a parade on the 4th of July, and it's really a big parade. So we sometimes I've marched in it. Max Broad from DC Voters for Animals,
Mhm.
he's marched. I've marched with him and some people that were part of his group one year. And one year I just stood out there with the sign behind me saying how many animals are killed every year. So, or
Yeah.
every day. Actually, it's every day. So it's very depressing to read that data. But you have to create awareness and let people know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So
I've been to
anyway,
the
I would
Palisades
definitely
parade.
recommend that Palisades.
Mhm.
It's typically the 4th of July. I'm not sure who I think the organization of it is probably most of those groups. The fire department is big in it. Um, but I can look that up and try and let you know if I can.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I've been to that one before. That's a great parade. All of these things and they're just it's such a great way to engage with the community. We just in the like a month ago now had the Montgomery County Thanksgiving parade. It was our third year participating.
Oh, where
And
is that? That I don't even know about that.
that's in Silver Spring, Maryland. And we love that. There were almost 200 contingents in the parade this year. And
Wow.
it's honestly really fun seeing how it grows. So 2 years ago, the whole thing is televised. 2 years ago, the camera turned around and wouldn't show us. This year, at least they showed us. And we have like a sign that says it's a very cute little turkey that says, I'm thankful for vegans. And then we have a bunch of signs that just say, like why we're thankful for going vegan, better health, better for the environment, all those things. And yeah, so we love it because it's very engaging for people. And also, it really shows everyone in the crowds because we get cheered by the vegetarians and vegans in the group, and it really shows everyone your neighbors are already into this. Your neighbors are already doing this. This is normal. And yeah, so I think parades, I think community events, anything like that, I think they're an amazing, accepting, like loving way to show your neighbors that veganism is joy, it's happiness, it's accessible, it's also strength, it's also change, like positive change. And so I think for me, like showing up in my community in that way it's a really healthy way for me to care about my community and like care about the future of our planet.
Absolutely. And I'd just like to mention, I guess, two things here. One, it's a shame that TV network turned around and wouldn't represent you because at the last Veg Fest, I was handling media and we got Channel 9 to come down and they interviewed everybody. I'm sure you were there. Well, maybe not been the last one, but it was one. I think it was the last one. Anyway, the interviews were early in the morning, which were both good and bad, but people just waking up that didn't know about it go, oh, well, we can go over there for that. So some of the networks have been in local TV have been, very good. So they did
Yeah,
four
well,
inter.
and this year they didn't turn away, so that's progress.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I was like, that's awesome. We're making progress. I thought it was so interesting. I don't think they turned away from us our first year either, just our second year. So I wonder if it was just like
Oh,
cameraman has feelings about veganism. But yeah,
interesting.
it is definitely something that elicits strong emotional responses from people. Um, and I think we just like need to accept that, yeah, like you're talking to someone about their culture, their history, their ties to their family. Like you're talking to them about food is so much for us.
Yeah,
So it's going to be emotionally charged. So I think if we can just like hold space for that, we can also get farther in those discussions.
I think you're right. And we have to be accepting as we hope to be accepted in our own way. So, um, and, I try to not be judgmental. I certainly don't bring it up with some people in my extended family.
Yeah, you have to choose battles.
Exactly. And one other thing I was going to say in terms of acceptance. One of our neighbors had a party, and I have a plant-based cookbook that I just produced. And so my husband brought it up, and so our neighbor said, "Well, why didn't you bring it here? And why don't you have a party and sell it?" And one neighbor said, "I'm going to buy it." And they're not vegan, but it's just showing that people, I think, are growing and are trying to, and they talked about, they said, well, we're trying to, move toward that. And we're don't eat red meat, and we try not to eat uh, much meat at all. And it was just really encouraging to
Yeah,
hear people talking about the trend of moving there because I had no idea. And, some of my neighbors do know, certainly, that we're vegans because we don't eat, when they have a party, we won't eat a lot of the stuff that's dairy. But anyway, so there's, I think, just a growing awareness and acceptance, and that's better for your health. I mean, I think these people really are thinking about their own health,
yeah,
and that's definitely a good way to get advocates and get people to become part of an important movement.
absolutely. I know a lot of people who became plant-based for their health, and I know a lot of vegans who are vegan strictly for the animals that would say very vehemently like, "Oh, they're not vegan." And I always try to go the opposite. I always those people that are plant-based for their health, I'm always like, that's awesome. Isn't it also great that you're helping the environment and you're helping animals? And I've watched those people like when you include them, even though they're not including themselves necessarily, because that's not why they're doing it, but once you include them, they do feel that pride and they do come around and then they do become vegan for the animals and the climate and their
Yeah,
health because they're
yeah.
included. And so, and I know so many people that were plant-based for their health that didn't stick with it because it's not part of their
Mm,
who they are. And it's like, okay, so how do we help people make it part of who they are? Caring. So much of it is just it's about community, it's about caring and yeah.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Addison, it's been so great to have you as our guest. You're so knowledgeable. I love farm animal rights movement and the important work that you do across the country.
And we love Climate
And
Diet. Thank you so much for everything you do and it's such an important angle to be talking about, really.
thank you so much. So we will put your website on
Yep.
the podcast. We have sort of a little cover with marketing, so we'll add that to it. And thank you, all listeners, for listening to us today. And look us up on climatediet.org and farmusa.org and
Yep.
see more about what these groups are trying to do to help the climate, the health, and the animals.
Thank
Bye,
you so much.
everybody.